Hello and welcome back to Do It with Daisy. I'm Daisy, Waffles is here too, and we are so ready for some doggone cooking with you. Today we are gonna make some swimmin' turkey, so let's dive on in. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and cut our shredded carrots up even more. So I'm actually going to flip my beautiful cutting board over because if you have grooves on your cutting board, you're not gonna want them facing up for this part. So we've got our shredded carrots on our cutting board, and we're actually just gonna chop these up even finer. And then we're going to mix our finely chopped carrots with our ground turkey. And once this is really well mixed, we're just gonna form it into little meatballs. Now, we will add a little bit of sunflower oil to our pan. Maybe a teaspoon. And spread that around. Turn our heat up to medium high. I was so excited the first time that I saw one of our recipes from the licensed veterinary nutritionist because they recommend cooking the heat over medium to medium-high heat on a stovetop. And I cook everything on medium-high heat. I figure you stir it and it gets done faster. Not everyone agrees with that sentiment, but that's okay. It works for the food that I make, and turns out that's the best way to cook meat for waffles. Just go ahead and put each of our little meatballs in our pan. And then we really just want to get those kind of seared on each side. We want to get the outside of the meatballs nice and crispy. Now, when those are done, we're gonna go ahead and add them to this pot with our vegetables. So first we're going to add our broccoli into our pot. We need to make sure that any vegetables we use are cut to no more than 1/4 inch because our dogs can actually choke on any of these vegetables, especially because we're serving them in soup. So they're not going to get the opportunity to chew each individual morsel. Instead, it's going to be washed down by the broth of the soup. So we will add our broccoli. We will add some sweet potatoes. And then we will add our meatballs and some water. So once they look like so, you can see they're nice and golden brown on each side. That means that they're crispy enough to really hold the meat together. Then we're gonna go ahead and add them to our bowl of vegetables. And now we're going to cover this with water. We don't wanna add too much water because it'll make the flavor kind of bland if there's too much water. What we want is just enough to absorb some of the flavors of the meat and vegetables as they cook and to really create a nice rich broth. So we're just going to barely cover it. Because the vegetables are smaller than the meatballs, then that really gives us a lot of leeway, because if we cover the meatballs just barely, then everything is going to be perfectly submerged. Now for this, we can just leave the heat on medium-high. Go ahead and cover it. Once it gets to a boil, we'll turn the heat down to probably medium-low, let it simmer a little bit. And then when the meatballs get to be at least 165 degrees Fahrenheit on the inside, then we know that everything is cooked. By then, the vegetables should also be nice and tender. Now, once the meatballs have reached a food-safe temperature and the vegetables are nice and tender, then it's perfectly safe and delicious to dig into our swimming turkey soup. Yep, that vegetable is nice and tender. Nice tender sweet potatoes. Nice tender broccoli. Now, if I take a nice big bite all together, meatball, broccoli, sweet potato, and broth. So good. I think Waffles is jealous. I'm gonna give her a meatball. Now, sometimes what I will do to make this a really fully balanced meal is I will either serve it over top of rice or I'll add rice into the soup. Oh my goodness. The broccoli is already getting so bright and vibrant. Don't want to dump that. We'll go ahead and add the rice in there. See if that sweet potato's tender yet. Not yet. Oh, yum. Perfect. So then we can just let that cool down. And once it's cooled, then it's going to get darker. As those vegetables really seep into the broth and it cools down, comes all to sort of an equilibrium and a nice mellow room temperature, refrigerator temperature, then it really absorbs not just the flavor, but the color as well. As you can see by comparison. Oops, that's why I got these clear ones so that you can see it getting darker and darker here until it gets to be this nice golden-y color for the broth. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope that you really enjoyed today's video. We had a great time making and munching on soup. Munching isn't really the best word, but we did drinking and munching, so it all works. If you did have just as much fun as us, please make sure that you like this video and definitely share it with a friend. I'm sure they'll have just as much fun too. And make sure that you're subscribed to us so that you don't miss out on any of our dog-friendly content. We'll see you next time.